Okay, can you hear me there, guys? How are we all doing? Just checking in to see if everyone's right to go. And then we'll get started. Coming through loud and clear. If someone gives me a thumbs up, we'll get into it. Good work, Emery. All right, guys, let's get started. I'm finally settled down. I've got my coffee in front of me and I'm ready to go. Now, welcome to TradeSetup in the live stream for the 24th of August. Hope we're all having a good day today. There wasn't much action overnight. I think the US gave up a bit of what they made in the previous session, the good rally. They gave up a little bit of that. And again, it's all got to do with Trump. Good old Trump. Can't help but not being the media. I mean, not being the market focus. So he's got a few comments he's pumping out there, and that's making the markets in the US a bit jittery, and probably just a good excuse to take some gains off the table as well. But there still is a buying on dips mentality in the US by the looks of it. So what we'll do is take a look at those. What we'll do today, so for anyone new, sorry, before I get started, anyone new that's joining us for the first time, and then there might be one or two, feel free to link into us on Twitter. We're not as active, but we are slowly but surely getting there. We set up some, we do push out some Twitter alerts, things that we're looking at through the TradeSetup app. Not the ones that we're going to go active on, obviously, just things that we're looking at. So there's a bit of information there. Might do some other stuff as well. Obviously, want to start getting a bit more active. Not so much education, but a few examples of setups, and so we'll get that sort of stuff out onto Twitter, also onto Facebook. You'll see us in the top right corner, and on the bottom right, just link into us on TradeSetup. Sorry, subscribe on what's that you called YouTube? All right, I'm getting there. Zesty, all good. So what we'll do today, you're going to take a look at a couple of things. Obviously, just look at where the markets are standing. Not much change, probably from Monday, really. Our market, even though the US was up quite high, we sort of opened up and then sold off yesterday. And we did bounce back a bit today, only about 10 points, I think, when I last looked at it. So not a big day. Still a bit jittery, still a bit of concerns in our markets for whatever reason. But we'll see how that goes. What I want to take a look at, mainly I'll focus on today, is something I was talking to Anne-Marie yesterday, and we had a good old discussion about. It's a SPY 200 in the ASX index, but it's got to do with obviously the technicals and chart patterns and structure, taking note of the price action. And I found it, once we got into it, it was probably a really good topic to share with everyone. And why it's very important to plan ahead, plan the trades and plan what you want to see, because if you don't really know what you're looking for, you're sort of trading on a whim, I think, anyway. But we'll go through what we spoke about yesterday. And if I leave something out, Anne-Marie, feel free to chuck it into the chat. But any questions while we're going through, because I think it will probably be quite useful. Well, I'm hoping it'll be quite useful. Just ask questions along the way, because there's probably a lot of little things that I might miss that's not making sense to you. So feel free to ask any question you want into chat. All right, let's get into it then. What do I want to do? Here we go. Put my lovely face up there. Let's minimize that. And here we are. All right, so the market's up. It's up 13, so it is ticked up a little bit, but the XJO itself is not too flash. A bit of a down day yesterday, which was a bit surprising. So it closed below where the previous day was open, even though the US was up about a percent or so, 1.4%, I think. We didn't go up, so it's still looking a bit shaky, but you still got that type of price action, that's not too bad. It's just this last day, bit of rejection up at 57.80, not leaving too confident. This could easily be a shoulder, then bang through 57, or it could easily just take up straight up through 57.80. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is just be prepared, plan ahead. If you see something that looks good for you on the bullish side, then start looking into buying some stocks and good quality setups. If not, if you do see some negativity in the overall market, then just be wary. Doesn't mean you can't still trade long, but it may just not be as easy. All right, just look at the overall markets. I don't think there's been much change on any of the. That's the Dow there. That's the most recent price action. It's just backing off. You've still got some key levels right down at 23. So this is one thing we'll take a look at when we look at the SPY. Is this type of price action when you can see this moves up. However many days you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. 10 days straight up. And then it's gained quite a bit, from 2150 up to the highs of 22,200. And then you get this sort of push down, pop back up, lower high, push down. So it's a bit more choppy. That's not a bad, I don't mind that at all. I think that's a good sign that the market's just having a bit of a correction, washing out some of these late buyers. And here they're getting washed out of the market, and then it starts building some high lows to go again. So it's similar to this, it's a bit choppy through here, and then it goes again. A bit choppy through here, and potentially it goes again. So I don't mind that on the Dow Jones. Let's look at the bigger S&P. If I can find it. There we go. Pretty much the same. You've got a major support down at 2410. Even though there's got some big candles here, it's still holding that longer term trend to the upside. We're potentially in a zone, or we are in a zone where we could make an anchor. Another anchor and hold a high low and then start topping through, pushing through some of these highs, potentially that 24.55 zone. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's not, that trend still was well and truly up. And you can see the stochastics, the energy to push it down here, trying to get it down to that anchor level. It's a big push. It's a strong move down, but the buyers are soaking it up as it's pushing down. That buying on dip mentality. So that would suggest that we're going to start attacking the highs. We may attack the highs. If not, we may, fall short, and then you'd probably be a bit more concerning there if you get a double top, say somewhere around this minor lower high at 24.72, 75. If you can see that. See how that goes. We'll see what the FTSE's at. Yeah, the FTSE's it's not really showing any negative signs. You've got a support there that needs to break before I become too negative on this. This could easily just grind its way higher, back up through 74.50, and then build a higher low, and away we go. The DAX, a bit of the same price action if we just move that out a bit, I think. Yeah, so you got only a minor level through here at 12,000. It's been retested, but again, it's got the potential to push up through that 12,300 and then build some high lows, and off we go. But we'll see. Yeah, to do with Trump, it's a bit of negativity, isn't it? Anything he does, the media pumps it out there, but he says some dumb things sometimes. I like reading the news. I'm always every morning interested in what has he said now. What has he said now? Still asking for money to build the wall around Mexico or something, isn't he? The wall between the US and Mexico to keep them out, keep the rabbits out. Anyway, all right. So that's where we are at the moment. We've taken a look at the ASX. If anyone's following the actual alerts, we've got the on the app. Anyone doesn't know, you can search it on the Apple App Store. You can search it through, I think it's Google Play. Just search TradeSetup and you'll find the app there, and you can get a free trial. You can actually just follow it for when we pop up some free stuff. We've had a few tick off. We had 2 yesterday and 1 today. So we got BNO, that's a new one. It's backing off a bit today, but that rallied through, opened at 46 where the entry was, and bang, straight up, finished above 50. Backing off a bit today. A bit of that opportunistic profit taken there, but that longer term structure is still really nice. I think I hope we can see all that there. Let me just go over here. It's probably a bit better if I show it here. There you go. So that price structure is still good. That weekly, this is what I like on the weekly chart. We've got this move down has been broken. You've got this good solid push up, a pullback. Tried to go lower again, but built that high low just above 30, and then we're shooting up, trading up towards the high. So this little move here, I'm expecting to continue on through 50, really flush out those highs and start attacking some of these levels, potentially 57.50 and even higher. Really start to kick on a bit. But that's looking good. We also got Newcrest today, 22.20, just looking for that continuation. You've got a major double bottom through here, support zone through just between 19 and 19.50. And that's taken out this level at 22, which is the anchor to that down move. And you look at the weekly, that's quite nice. You can see that contraction, big move down, good strong move up. Had tried to go again on the downside, couldn't get, didn't get too far on this move down. Popped up, made a lower high, tried to push down, found support, and then it's on its way back up again by the looks of it. So don't mind taking this little entry through here. See how we go. Risk is just around the 21.15, I think. So we'll see if this can kick on and start attacking those highs. Whoop, just bear with me 1 second, guys. Sorry guys, back on board now. Sorry about that. A little bit of a quick phone call I had to take there. Now, where were we? So we've got Newcrest. That's looking good. And there was one other yesterday, and I'm going to forget. Oh, MBE. MBE, although it's sort of backed off a bit today, we've got it at 8.2. So we're just looking for that rally up. The weekly is the one we really like. I mean, you can see this. It's a good solid move down. But the amount of time it's spent through here, as opposed to the previous big sell-off from, say, 25 down to about 12.5. Punched up, washed out a bit more, but it spent quite a bit of time through here. And you can see that little pop-up, then pushed back down to support just below 5, and then it started to lift again on the weekly basis. So really nice, and then you've got a potential higher low there. Not confirmed, but is definitely starting to lift on the daily basis. So we'll see if they can punch up through 10, and we're expecting... this is a lot like the other one. What we were trading before, I think it's EHX, sorry. We're looking for that move through 10. I think this is a prime target for a move through 10. It has had a bit of a dip at it yesterday when it got to 8.6. I think it was going to trade up. I think it was offered 9. But it was trying to have a bit of a kick up. So this one could look good as a little prime, prime target to take out that 10 zone and really push through. This time it might just go straight through 10.5, and on we go. So just beware if you actually long this. It'd be nice to sit on the offer at 10.5, maybe take a partial. But I think this one, the second time around, this could be really a bit more of a continuation trade. So it's a bit different to that original push up, where it hasn't really pulled back, pop up through 10.5. So people plan it from, say, 9, 9.5, 9.2, 9.3, plan it through there and just popping it through 10. Say take some out at 10.2 and so on, just playing that little trade. Like the pros do that quite a bit. And then you got this pullback here. This could be a bit different. It could still be the same, popping through 10, chopping between 9.8, 9.7, 10.5. And then if it does, it's going to take off 10.5, 11, 11.5, and so on. There's another one that I actually don't mind for that play. This is one we're looking at. It's not an alert, but similar type of thing. It traded 10 yesterday. So it hasn't done that play, but it's so close. It's around 8.2 to 8.4. This is Covada. Had some good news, and that you can see that structure there holding some high lows, high low in here, stabbed through just about through 10. So it may have another dip at that. So just keep an eye on that one anyway. All right. Now, so they're the three newies, and we still got the others running, doing quite well on those. Luca's, that's not a Luca, is it? That's a Luca. That's kicked up a bit today. That's looking good. Want to see that punch through 960 and push high. It's just finding a bit of a ceiling there at 960. Struggling, still holding the high lows, so this could easily accelerate. The amount of time it's taken to trade up there, and it keeps test, but hold. Buyers are stepping in a bit earlier, a bit higher. So we'll see if they can punch through and get a run on a bit. What are the other ones? We've got ASX. That's kicking on a bit more today. That's nice. Want to see up towards 55, potentially a little bit higher before we potentially take a partial on that. So they're the two we haven't taken a partial on. Then BRB, that's it's okay. It's probably going to be, I think it's a capital raising on this. We've got this somewhere around 79, a bit high on the entry, but it was looking great at the time. Did nothing from there, so somebody knew something by the looks of it. So I think that one, we'll see how it opens. I think it's a 70, 71, 72 capital raising, maybe 73, but we'll see. We'll see. Otherwise, that could just punch down and pop back up again, but we'll see how that one plays out when it reopens. That's probably about it. So any questions on those before we just want to flick it over into the SPY and show you what we're looking at yesterday? I think it might be of interest, so I'm hoping it will be of interest. I'll just get up my SPY chart here. Now, so I think we'll start with the actual, what are we? Got to find it. This is what, so every morning put together a couple of, some levels of what we're looking at on the ASX on the open. It's a SPY chart obviously, and just which way we're looking for it to, what's the important key levels to watch out for. Do you expect a wash out of these zones? So in the past, that was today's, so you can see we're just sort of marking up those key levels. Today it's just popped up through that that resistance zone through 57.13, backing off, expecting more of that higher low, which I think it's built. We'll just have to see how that plays out. Well, it hasn't really done too much. We'll probably have to go down to a 5-minute chart. Yeah, you can see that's, when was that? 10 o'clock. So that was on the open, got pumped down, and then it's punched back up a bit. So there you go. That's actually a decent sell if it's retested those lows down there, and it's really just washed out those lows. So time and time again, the market on the SPY, in any market, will wash out key levels. So that's why I like to mark them up. And there's a certain scenario situation when there's a high probability that it's probably going to wash it out and it's going to drag in, because they know what the market knows is it's probably going to drag in some buyers or some sellers, and then it'll turn around and wash them back out again. So Marie and I were looking at this yesterday, and here is the actual, let me just get that up. So this was a setup for yesterday. This is what we looked at, prior to about 8 o'clock in the morning, mark up those key levels. So we had an anchor level around that 57, say 08 zone of this leg up. It's quite a ways off. But then you had this minor level just between 57.50 and 55, around 57.53. I just saw that as a prime target, and you can see where the stochastics are. It's taken a bit of energy to push it up here. It's getting a bit stretched on this move. You can see that, and it's had one move, consolidated a bit, built that anchor there, and it had a secondary target, a secondary move up. A lot of the times the markets will do it in 2 moves, and if it's pushing up into a resistance zone, there's a good chance that the market's going to open up on the SPY 200 prior to the ASX opening and just wash it out, blast it out. So what I like to do, and I think it's important for everyone just to go through your charts, if you're going to trade anything, really just setting up your key levels, where your swing levels are, where your support, your resistance, your anchor levels, and then just working out what you want to see. And at the moment, what I was looking for with this, I just expected it to wash out 57, 55, potentially pull back, build a higher low, and then go again. We'll go and have a look at what it did in just a second. If I just go minimize that. So the price action was here. Just 1 second here, guys. Sorry guys, just 1 minute there. All right, I'm just going to mark this up, what we had yesterday. So that was our level through here. We had a nice little resistance level up at 57. So that was a key level. You can see it's pushed back up to that resistance there. It's pushed down, made that lower high just through here, and pushed down and washed out. So we started forming that major base. So longer term, this is a major high low in comparison to that support zone through here. So it's pushed up, taken out this little high. You can see just up there, pushed up, taken out the high, pulled back. And once it's got to about here and it started washing out that support zone, you can see, and then it started lifting basically as we saw there. That was a good move. That's a major high low. So I'm still expecting this zone to hold as a high low. It was a good opportunity just on the 30-minute chart. We can see just to wash out, and what we got from this setup, expecting a bit of a washout. Look, just bear with me 1 second, guys. I want to get something sorted and I'll come straight back to you. All right, back again. So where were we? So we were expecting, my premise for potentially the day, like I said before, I wanted to see that wash out that zone. And then a lot of the times they were back and fill. Potentially if it was going to hold this trend, I would have expected a higher low to build around that 57.30 zone and then potentially go straight back up to retest, you know, towards these highs at 57.75. As it played out, beautiful. You know, it was really good price action. If we get into just looking at the 5-minute candles, so that's the price action there. We've got our zone marked in. That's our resistance zone. You can see the open, bang, straight up through, and then come hammering straight back down. So, like I said, my premise was to build that higher low, potentially, and then go again. But as it played out, we have to treat as we go along is just keeping an eye on the price action and just watching to see what happens and what plays out, just so we're not getting caught up with any one trade, and just watching that price action to see, okay, if I was looking for that buy entry from here, a bit of a pullback, then I want to see I want to see this type of price action. If I can just draw it up on another thing. So the importance for me is if we've got a key level, the market's pushed up, washed it out, come back down, I want to see this type of price action. A bit of contraction, higher lows holding, and then get an entry set up for the market to start moving and holding this high low, and then up we go. As you can see, it didn't play out that way. So this was a good example of just sticking with the trend. So you know that, okay, on the 30-minute chart, this is extended, and now we've washed out that zone. So you've got to keep it in the back of your mind. If you're looking for continuation, you have to have confirmation that you're going to get some higher lows. You really do want to see those higher lows before you start getting into a long position. But in the back of your mind, you go, hey, okay, potentially it's taken a bit of effort to push up here on the 30-minute chart. We're up at a stretch level. We just washed out a zone. Is there a chance that we do a major correction? So that's another scenario you've got to have in the back of your mind, just checking it out. And as it played out, that did play out beautifully. So we'll go down to, I know a lot of people don't trade the 5-minute and 1-minute time frame, but this is very similar across the board. If you're looking at price action, or you're an advocate of price action, it's very similar things on, you know, the daily, the weekly. Probably not on stocks. You don't get the washouts as common as you do, say, on the SPY, and you do on currencies. So if you trade currencies and futures contracts, index futures, just looking for those washouts is very important. Just setting up your trades in advance. So if we get into that 1-minute chart, whoop. Let me just find out. I've just got to find the exact price action where we were. So this is it here. So from here, you know you've got a washout, okay? We've just found potentially a bit of support through here. We don't know that market. And then once we start getting this, it's building some higher lows, and it's just popping up through. It's only ever so short, ever so slightly, just popping up through some lower highs in here. So you can see that. That's a solid, strong move down. So when we're analyzing this, prior to, say, even this candle, when we're analyzing this, I'm expecting a higher low. I don't like this price action. This is just what we said. I think we've spoken about it before. When you get if I just clear all this off. All right. So we pushed up. That's a strong move down. Okay, it's pretty clear that that's strong. There's no real, you know, high lows, lower highs. What you'd expect if it's come down, say it finds support in there. If it's a bullish market, you expect a solid reaction up. Okay, potentially 1/3 to 2/3 of this leg, but a solid reaction, not just something that pushes down, pops up, and starts chopping around like this. That to me is not strong price action. That's more anyone that's shorted in here potentially, or that have got it wrong. You know, from here they bought it up here. They've been squeezing out of the market. They're trying to buy it back, probably chasing their tail, just closing out these positions. But the shorts are well and truly in control. Does that make sense, guys? Just those two variations of movements. This, and then pulling back and getting a nice setup to go long, as opposed to this. It's a reaction off a level, but this price action is a good way to take note that after a strong move, if you get this type of price action, there's potential for it to go an equal sort of a move down. So if you're watching this, like I was yesterday, I didn't actually trade it just to be clear, but I think it was a great example of the differences in price action and trying to, you know, assess the price action on the fly, I guess. Is that making sense there, guys? Am I explaining exactly what we were talking about yesterday, Anne-Marie? But can you see that little high lows are holding? It's just popped up through a lower high. But the thing is, the way I would build this trade, as we mentioned it yesterday, is just looking for some key levels. Okay, if I want to, I don't like seeing that if I'm going to go long. If I went long through here, I'd be very concerned, and I'd probably have my stop nice and tight, you know, on an intraday basis. And don't forget, you're going against these 5-minute MAs. There's a potential for a major correction because the 30 minutes extended into a resistance zone. So there's all these factors playing out. You've got a good washout. So to build a short trade, there's quite a, you know, some beautiful signs really lining up all together that this is going to roll over and this is going to go a lot lower. All right, so we've got our choppiness through here. Just higher lows are holding by a minor amount. We've only just popped through those highs by 1 or 2 points. That's not any sign at all of a strong market. So for me, I'm thinking, okay, what's going to happen? We've got that leg down, a strong move down. Potentially there's a second strong move down coming. So I want to take advantage of that and potentially sell. We've got this little pop up. Then you've come down and you've just taken out this higher low. With this only by a point or so. Then we popped up. Potentially on the second move down, you could have sold it just in here. Or you can sell it on these breaks. Anywhere through here. You're probably taking a bit of heat. But this trend down really was holding. And then you can see once we've got to that major low again, look what's happened. It's just capitulated. So anyone who's bought it up here, held it under here, the pressure's on the downside. Once you see this capitulation, you had another opportunity through here. Your risk is just above those highs. And then you just followed it down from there. Does that make sense on what we're looking for on the move down? Yeah. So what we spoke about and the way I like to use stochastics anyway. I won't get into too much depth. Yeah. So what we're looking at is stochastics, the way we use stochastics, rather than overbought, oversold as such. It's more, I like to think of it as the energy it's taken to push up or the energy it's taken to push down. All right. So when you're looking at it in terms of this strong move down, it's come from overbought. It's heavy selling. It's gone to oversold. So that there is quite a bit of energy, and it's coincided with a strong move down. Okay. Now, if we're in a bullish market, this should be an equal strong move up. Okay. The pressure was there. You can see by getting the stochastics actually retraced quite a bit. It went to above 60, nearly, close to overbought territory. But look at the coinciding move up. It was sellers were soaking it up. We're just keeping the pressure on. All right. So it actually got up there. The buyers gave it a bit of a dip, but it really couldn't get much further. It barely retraced a third of that move down. So that is a good sign for me, especially when you get these lower highs starting to play, and this price action starting to come into play is a good sign that this is going to go for another leg lower, and we could have measured potentially. Oh, if I can just measure that. Whoop. Just gonna. What are we doing here? Come on, guys. Let's probably just measure that out a bit better. So for me, your target could have been anywhere, somewhere around that low. As it's came out, it's extended that low, so that was a nice little move anyway. What are you doing? All right, that's better. So does that make sense, just what we're looking at? If we turn around and look at the difference between... Oh, there's one more point. So what we generally look at in a weak or strong market, you're looking at it in two waves. So whether it's a strong market up, it's one, correction. And if we go back to this... Let's just take this off the boil here. All right, so strong move up, you might get one. You get this sort of reaction down. It doesn't come near the anchor because this is potentially the anchor, the major anchor through here. That sort of correction down. I'll just take that off. That's your anchor. So we've got one strong move up. Don't know what's happened on the left here. And then we're looking for that secondary move or that secondary wave. So we're looking to take an opportunity of potentially an equal move up. That happens a lot in the strong market and in a weak market on the downside also. You've got a strong move down. You might get choppy reaction back up. And then you're looking for that secondary move down. So this is exactly what we're looking for in this. You know that there was still a lot of weakness in. There's still a lot of selling coming through. There's probably a lot of potential for the buyers on the 30-minute chart to get squeezed out of the market and have a decent correction on the 30-minute. But still hold the trend up. So what we're looking for, we can just project it out. We've potentially got a trade that can pay out, 4 to 1, 3 or 4 to 1. And that's nice on the SPY. So that's how we look at it. So that's why we were viewing it as a short through here. And then you've got the lower highs come into play. It's really, it's putting the pressure on. As soon as you get through this low, it's really putting the pressure on anyone that's bought it through here, even bought it up through here. The trend, the MAs are down. The lower highs are starting to hold. After this move up, lower highs are taking back control, sellers are taking back control, and it's pushing down. It's just squeezing them out. So you can just see people who probably tried to buy it, anticipating the lows here. Never try to anticipate the low when you haven't broken any structure. And this is another thing that we've spoken about with people before. Don't try to enter if you don't break an anchor. This is our reference chart. This is our maybe the 5-minute chart's our reference chart. We haven't broken an anchor. Even on the 1-minute chart, we haven't broken an anchor. You can see that 1 minute we've moved down, reacted. We've got our anchor way up here. And then these little minor anchors holding the market down. Until it breaks up through a minor anchor, I wouldn't be going long at all because you're pretty much going against your trend. You don't know how long it's going to last. You don't know how far it's going to go on the downside. So you really are guessing. You're trying to pick a bottom. And I won't say what I was going to say, but you don't want to try to pick bottoms or in reverse pick tops when there's been no clear change in market sentiment. So if we just follow this down. So we know by this stage we've really extended. You can see that's really capitulating, had a bit of a bounce, and that was probably coinciding to that extended move down, and we popped up, built a lower high, and bang, straight back down again. So it was probably only about this stage. If we try to analyze this quickly, what are we seeing? For me, the key anchor level is still up here. Then you've got a minor level. So as soon as we push down, a weak market should have pushed through that low. It didn't. It fell 1 or 2 points short, and we started contracting back up. So for me, at this zone, we're coming close to breaking it. So when we look at I think just for another example of stochastics in play and how you would potentially use them. So we know at this stage we're potentially going to hold. This is going to be the low of the day. Anyone who sold it earlier on in that move down is just trying to look for a chance to book a profit. We've had 2 moves down, just like we mentioned here. 1, 2. We've had those 2 moves down, and it's extended further than what we expected. And then we're starting to hold some higher lows, and we're starting to break up. So there is a good chance now that longs are going to start taking, buyers are going to start taking control. The sellers who originally sold it are going to look to take some profit and sort of buying on those dips. So then we just turn and reverse it. We've got a higher low here, which held, even got washed out just here, pushed up to our anchor, pulled back, and we got that washout there. Look where the stochastics are. It took quite a bit of energy to push it down. We only really retested that anchor, washed it out, and then we started breaking higher again. There could have been a trade just here, looking for that higher low to hold, especially after a washout. You push back up, you could have taken it 1 point up through here, your stop could have been down, so that was a little trade. But you've got to remember that the difference between going with the trend and going against it. Here you're going with the trend, here you're potentially going against it, and you're in a contractive market, not expansion. When we say expansion, it's going fast down and it has a little contraction, bang, straight back down again, so it's just taking out the lows. This is more contractive action of that major move down. Does that make sense, just what we mentioned there? If not, just put in a question if you've got any, guys. All right. If there isn't any late questions, I'll just catch up on them. So at this stage, we're using these stochastics. It's pushing back up. Had a good move up to that resistance zone again. You can see it's taken a bit of pressure to get it up there, so it's quite a good move. Had a little pullback here. This is what we're talking about. So potentially somebody could have, you may have, looked at it at this stage thinking, okay, we're continuing this leg up. Maybe I'll buy it on the break. My stop could be here. Buy it on the break up through here. Looking for it to extend up through that anchor, and then you've got a long trade on your hands. The difference between that and potentially doing the same thing here, using that same anchor, is the stochastics. And this is how I would like to use them. I probably wouldn't have taken this at all as a long entry, as a buy entry, purely because you've got that pop up. Look where the stochastics are. To me, it's a high risk, low probability trade. It's taken quite a bit of energy to push it up here. It's had a minor pullback, and it's still in overbought territory for my liking. So taking that on a breakthrough here with your risk through there is a higher risk trade, as opposed to it coming down. That selling pressure was quite hard. You can see by the stochastics moving down, it come to oversold, but it's holding up. It's holding up at this minor level again. All right, so pretty much the same trade, the same levels. Your risk is, 1 point above. Sorry, your entry is 1 point above here. It's probably about the same level here. Your risk is going to be roughly the same level, but they're different scenarios just by looking at using that stochastics in the way of pressure. So the pressure to push it down was quite high. You can see by the pressure on the downside, pushing it into oversold, except the buyers were stepping in. The buyers were soaking up. The buyers were soaking up. So for me, a long entry through here was much better, and with your risk just down here. Does that make sense? And look at it. I mean, it even played out quite nicely. You got the break of that anchor. So once we break that anchor through here and up here, we know that this long trend, we might go into some consolidation for the rest of the day. You don't know what's going to happen. As it played out, yeah, it pretty much pushed back down, retested those lows, and I think over the night session it took off again. So that's probably just what I wanted to go over with you guys. If you've got any questions on, especially, I think it's good to know how to use how we use the stochastics. The difference between going with the trend and looking for the price action to confirm. Like I said, at that original point, I may have been looking for a higher low, a major high low to build, and then I'm waiting for the MAs potentially to contract in on each other. And then I'm looking for them to expand like this. It didn't play out that way, and the price action would turn to me and pretty much said to me, okay, we're going to get a second strong leg down. And that's the way you've got to play it. I guess you've got to be nimble with your trading. It's a bit different when you're intraday trading than when you're actually looking at it from day to day or weekly charts. You've got a lot more time to move, but this price action could be, you can take it across to the daily, you can take it across to the weekly. It's a very similar way to read the price action. All right, I'm guessing there's no questions, so if you want to chuck in some, feel free to put in some. We've got AQX we can kick off with. Anything else you want to put in there, just some stocks you want to take a quick look at. I hope that was a bit informative. It might have been, it's very in-depth technical analysis, I guess, but I'm hoping what I'm trying to get across is the way to read the market and the pressure of the market, what's potentially happening, which way to align yourself. At this stage, you definitely align yourself. You've got to align yourself with the trend. And then I would have taken it down to, I get my entries pretty much off the 1 minute chart, looking for zones in a 5 minute chart. That 5 minute was down, bang, couldn't get up there. The 1 minute was confirming it. Then you're getting lower highs and then looking for a trade in there for that extension lower. Probably wasn't my ideal, exactly what I was expecting to start with, but it's a matter of being able to look at both sides of the market, flip it over if you get something different, and away you go. Telstra, we will do. All right, no questions. We'll get into it. I hope that was helpful. if you do have any questions down the track, just email us through. No problems at all. Telstra. I'm just checking out. So we're up only another point since we've been talking. I've been jabbering on. We haven't moved too much, so not too bad. All right, let's get on to it. We'll start with AQG. AQX, is it? So this one, Helen, you're looking at another Goldie. Relatively small by the looks of it. If we go into a weekly, so on the weekly, are they a gold producer or gold explorer? All right, we've got Paran. alicequeen.com.au. Formerly, also is a uranium explorer company with projects in Queensland, Australia. Is it uranium or gold? Oh, okay. Horn Island is a Brantford's gold project. Okay. So exploration into gold. All right, good. Let's just look at the charts. That weekly is not really showing me anything just at the moment. If we try to drill in on that, maybe we'll see something different. All right, just quickly looking at that. It's good just to draw a straight line to see what's happening. So you've got a little support zone through here, a little minor high-low. Okay, the weekly looks like it's holding some high lows, all right? So we push down here, we pop back up, lower high, come back down, retested the low, and then we're starting to build again. All right, so this is on a weekly basis, not too bad. Then you start to come down. We're probably holding that 4 zone, looking like, on the weekly. So from there, we just got to drill it down to the daily, just to try to get an idea. And it's holding high lows. That's quite clear. It's just broken through here. Maybe today, inside push up through that 5.1 zone. It's backing off down to 5.1 again. It's very lightly traded at the moment, so it's probably not something we would technically alert to. And if we did on light volume, you want to see the volume increase on a move up, which it has. It has increased a bit through here. This move up, good increase in volume here. It's probably right through here, this sort of move. It's increased volume comparatively to what it's done in the past. So, yeah, look, nothing really wrong with that at all. It looks nice. Bit more aggressive, but if it can get up through these highs, I think that could just really smash its way high. It's had a good announcement today, is it? Argonaut underwriting options. All right. But yeah, looks good. Retest the bottom, retest the lows through here, popped up, 5.6. Another high low here. It's trying to go up through the highs, couldn't do it. The thing is, it can't get through the highs, but it's holding the higher lows, which is a nice sign too. So sooner or later, that's going to contract in on itself just below that high. And if you get some high lows putting the squeeze on the long side, then I think that will really kick on. You just would expect it to kick on quite hard, eventually accelerate through the highs, and probably get quite a bit of momentum up, bit of steam up. Anyway, Telstra. Anything else? Just chuck it in the chat there, guys. Yeah, Telstra is one of our favourites. It's not doing too well at all. The thing is with Telstra, I think the reason why we basically went short was it's in a major downtrend through here when we're looking at it at this stage 431. It's that same thing. It's extended down. So that's what we talk about, expansion down, holding lower highs. As soon as you start against the trend, which is down, you're using the MAs, we're getting higher lows. We call in that contraction. Contraction's got to run out of steam eventually, and if it's going to continue on its downtrend, we want to see lower highs build again. And that played out beautifully. We've got a little pop up here after taking a partial exit around 410. Pop up. Thought we were going to get stopped out, to be honest. That was just before the financial year results. They were horrible. So gap down, still holding down to these lows, down below $4. So I think this has actually got room to move still on the downside. In saying that, I don't want to get it caught in a retraction too much. I'd rather I'm just thinking about that second half we've got running at the moment. So we're short from 431, took a partial at 410, and we still got half running here on the short side. I'm trying to lock it in. I think we had it locked in about 405. Is that right? 405 on Telstra. So it pops up above 4. I think we might get a back and fill, probably close a bit of that gap. If it's going to be negative, we'll probably get another opportunity. But ultimately, I don't think the company's doing that well. I don't think Telstra's doing that well at all. So it could have a lot more downside, and it's heavily traded too. So there could be a lot more long positions that need to get out or want to get out. You know, it was the old dividend stock. It's no good buying it for dividends if it's heading south. It's a waste of time, really. If you buy it, the market goes down, you get your dividend, you're still down on, net, you're down. So it's but it is a favourite for dividends, old Telstra. So we'll see how this goes. If we can punch through that 380, I think it's going to it may get another bout of heavy selling. And this is only one move, good move down. If it does this for too long and can't get up through 4, I think it's got another bout of selling on the downside. So we're just holding, see how we go. Anything else we want to take a quick look at? Just looking through what we got, if anything's popping out to me. This is another one. Look at the weekly. This is BAP. We can just get that up. That price action, I'm a big fan of. You look at that weekly price. Well, it's pretty much all of it, isn't it? Well, that's everything. Had a good run up. This action, very much like we see contraction. You've got the lower highs. The trend is up, so it's moving against the trend, but it's contracting in on itself. So you can see that's quite clearly holding high lows, holding lower highs. Let me just get that there. So it's a push down. We've got a lower high in here, and it's pushed down again, but it's still holding a higher low. And for me, this is a nice one. And you can see, I really like this for a break up out of contraction and start. I don't know if it's going to perform the same from this low to high. If you measure that out from here, around 475, that's going to be quite a good little return. 2 to 6, say $4, it's potentially can go up to $9 to $10 if that's going to work out the same. If not, and you only get it up to 650, okay, it's still a 2-to-1 trade. It could be a lot better than that. So I really like that. Really like that weekly structure. I don't know how if I can say that a bit clearer. If we just go look at the daily, you can see that it's at double bottom through here, held that support level, popped up. That's where it made the lower high. All this price, you can see that the difference between this price action as it's working its way down as opposed to this price action. So it went from lows of 490 up to above 6. It only really did it just over about a month. But then it spent the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months chopping down, and it couldn't get near those lows again. So that's strong price action in my book. And then what you're looking for is an opportunity for it to come rising and start holding some higher lows and push up out of contraction. And we've got this little move here was the first heads up that we're popping up out of contraction. Wouldn't trade it just yet, but I think all I'm really looking for now is a high low to build a minor high low, and then we've got our entry set up. So I really do like this. I reckon that could be great. Hopefully I'm not going to miss out and it's not going to go on without me like some others have. But we'll see what happens. Thanks, Clement. Didn't do too much last night. Usual night for the kids, always complaining and causing trouble. So the birthday, we had a nice little dinner and sat around, so it was good. What do we got? BAP. Yeah, that's one we just looked at. So yeah, it looks. The only thing I would be looking at, Clement, just on this one, and this has probably been very anal, and I know probably and there's another reason we like to have 10 positions on the setups, and we've got 10 now. That's probably a maximum we really want to run at any one time, and we just got 10 as of today. So that's another reason why I'm thinking about Telstra taking the profits and running. We've even got Coke short. We've done well. There's a few of them. The one that's gone the best is IFL. Maybe taking that off. That'll probably one of them will get stopped out soon, locking the rest of the gains, and away we go, which will be fine. IFL is a good one, so I want to really take one off before I start alerting to new trades. But in saying all that, I think the minor thing I'm looking for here on BAP is this is what's in focus now, and that's after that, that move through. You can see it's popping up. We're holding, we're just breaking up out of contraction. It's chopped down a bit. We held another high low around that 510. We're coming out of that contraction. We haven't just yet. I'd like to see that move up. Probably a little minor pullback the next couple of days, and then some high lows build. Even go down to the lower time frames. I want to see that inside continuation trade, what we see. This is what we call the inside continuation. That little trade there. Does that make sense? I'd love to see that prior to it breaking out of this 580 zone up through here. That would be awesome. I mean, yeah, if you're going to buy it here, your risk has to be below 535. But there's nothing to say that this can't lead to another move down, wash out that low. You know, that 1, 2 good moves down, still hold the trend up, and then off we go. Yeah, B&O, it's a good little retracement here. We'll see how that goes. That could easily pop up. It's holding around that 48 zone. I think that longer term weekly trend is going to punch up and get up through 50, close up above there. I think it's on, but we'll see. Not a bad effort if you take a partial up there. It was a good little gainer anyway, I think, in the end. Let me just check. At 50, it was an 8% gainer, so in one day, that's nice. Excuse me. CDO, we'll look at that, Anne-Marie. CDO, I got that right. Colorado Group. Doesn't look like anything's happening there. Yep, it's not that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Is that what you're talking about? All right. DNP, we'll have a look then. If it maybe, what's going on here? Is that Domino's, Helen? I'm guessing. DMP. This would be interesting. This is probably a lot of what we talked about before. I'll be interested to see how this one plays out on Domino's. CDD. Doro, I'm just as confused. I think this coffee's just settling in now. All right, it's cold too. So what we've got, what I'm liking about Domino's, I think this move down was caused in the US, wasn't it? Pretty much. They had something in the US. It wasn't too. Might need some glasses. We're all struggling today. End of the week nearly. So I think this move down was caused, something happened in the US, if I'm not mistaken, and it's caused a bit of a flow-on effect here, a bit of selling coming to Domino's over here as well. So that could be viewed as a bit of a flush out, especially after this move down, and it's probably a fairly healthy one considering the move up that it's had. You could look at it that way. It's broken a few little levels, a few key levels. We draw this right up in the weekly. So again, I guess what I'm going through is what we talk about planning. It's more, I think it's more evident when you trade intraday to plan ahead, especially on key levels, is to look at the key levels, know where your key levels are, knowing what you're expecting. It's exactly the same. I mean, what I'm doing here is really trying to assess what I expect to happen on a daily or weekly basis. So if we're looking at it this way, this trend up, it started to go, not vertical, but it was starting to get harder and harder on the upside. And this here really is just a healthy correction. You could view it that way. It hasn't, potentially it's right down on the support zone now. So this could easily start holding some higher lows, and it's washed out a lot of these long positions. It's resetting itself. It's probably going to take a fair bit of work, I'd say, on the weekly basis to reset itself, hold some high lows, and start building for a new move up. And I think it's going to chop around between this contraction, the contraction lower, holding higher lows on the longer term basis, and maybe chopping around, if we've got it like that, chopping around like this, higher lows, lower highs, before it starts picking a direction and going higher. Does that make sense? But going back to that, if this is just a bit of a flush out, it's a good solid move lower. In saying all that, what I like about it is this. We could be taking advantage of, you know, considering this is down on some longer term support. Where's my little man? And it's down here, okay, so just remembering that. Longer term support. There's a few factors that are playing into a good little buy through here. Probably not something we really look at because the daily trend is still down. You know, your daily anchor, that's your last leg down, that's your anchor. You know, then your next anchor, that trend, boom, lows, high, retracement, low, contraction, expansion all the way down. No, probably, let's just, a little expansion down, and you've come down to these lows. Don't forget that's our weekly support zone, so there is an opportunity if this starts holding a higher low in here on a daily and starts to look like it's going to go. It could break up through here, attempt to close the gap at 50, and then you've got a little, you know, you've got a good little trade on the long side, but you've got to keep it in context to what's happening. That market's still down on the daily, so it may get a bit choppy. You may pop back up, then whip you back out as it retests down to the lows again. So, but there is definitely a case to look at it potentially from the long side. Yeah, Telstra, I'm agreeing with you there, Helen. It could get smacked quite easily. Now let's just kick it over to, was it CDD? Does that make sense on this on dominoes? If this is a good little flush out, we've got a gap, we've got a lot of factors that potentially it's the last leg down. We don't know. I haven't seen any good price action, but if I was going to trade this off the lows, I want to see you've got that. If we can just draw this up, the gap down on the open, it's popped back up. So if we just, I'll draw that a bit differently. So this is the close. We've gapped down here. We've popped up. We're coming back down. Maybe I want to see it get a bit choppy here and get like a little inside level that I can just minimize my risk on. If I can get that inside level, it's probably worth it because you've got that move up here. Just extend that out and you've got at least a target. It could close the gap. It could go to 43. But I think it's worth a little long trade, but you just got to remember exactly what sort of market longer term bias there is, or what's the longer term structure of the market, which is down. So what do we got here? CDD. There you go. Card no. Just quickly off that daily chart, it's not great. I mean, it's not bad actually. But I'm hesitant to say that longer term structure, okay. Up until today, was it today? A few days ago, I could have viewed this as a short. Now, you'll probably remember better than the others, Anne-Marie. Just remember what we were talking about. I just want to draw this up on the weekly. Not saying it's a short, but up until a few days ago, you've got a resistance zone through here. So you had that. So resistance up here, it's accelerated down, pop back up, test, 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 bang, straight down again, test, 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 and it's essentially come back down again to support. All right. What we've done is this contraction back up. So if we just, like we're talking about the SPY, when we're looking at that, that's your contractive back up. That's your anchor, right up at $1.60, say. We're contracting back up to the anchor, and then it's broken down. So really, up until probably just last week, that could have been a short trade. Through this 110, you've got the lower high in here, and then it's on its way down. You don't know where it's going to pull up. We might pull up short, 70, 80, thereabout, but it's still a potential short trade. But like I said, a week ago. Does that make sense? Just that contraction up. We're starting to break down out of contraction. Potentially, there's sellers starting to take control. That was probably all up until this little pop up through the high here. If we go down to the daily, we do know that we're going to have a bit of resistance. Is that right? Up at 150. Yep. Which is through here. So if we draw that, I'm not 100% keen on that because of the weekly chart. Nothing to say it can't keep going. Like I said, I just don't like those sort of V shapes. We've got that 150 zone, that resistance. That's a longer term resistance. So through here, through here. It's touched up there. That's your anchor. You know, we're potentially heading south. We've just popped up through these highs at 130 a couple of days ago. It is a very, very minor, I would probably call that a double bottom rather than a high-low. Either way, you've sort of got that support zone. It's building at 110. Potentially, for me to go long, I want to see, obviously, the old tried and true higher lows. So I want to see that pop out a bit more. Say 135 and then back up. And then get your higher low, potentially go long. And then you get a major higher low. It's taking some good buying to produce it. Some sellers have come back in here, potentially looking on the short side. They're getting soaked up through the higher low, and then we start heading. You know, this buyers start taking control, and head it back up to 150, and potentially through 150. On the flip side, if this is a short, and we are going to get that 1-2 legs down, then you really have to be concerned that we're pushing up through resistance, and we get the opposite on the downside. Does that make sense? Yeah, so I think right where it is now, it's a bit of a crux of what you could expect. It could easily hold up 110. I want to see this price action. If I see that price action, I'm willing to take the punt that it's high lows. This is a major high low, this zone, but these little minor high lows are starting to hold up. Buyers are stepping in early and look for a break up out of that. And then you're looking for a leg up towards that 150. If we get this type of price action, these lower highs, then you'd be concerned that this is just a bit of a washout, and then we start heading south, and there is that potential to get that secondary major leg down, and then this correction could take a lot longer. All right, does that make sense there, guys? All right, I'll probably have to call it a day there. Any questions on that? I hope you're agreeing with me, Helen. Not Anne-Marie. But either way, I think there's still a little bit of price action just for me to get a bit of confidence either way. I don't care which way it goes, to be honest. It could be a short or a long. It doesn't matter. You just got to, you know, we know what we're looking for. If I was going to draw this up, I might just file it away, come back and have a look what I was expecting and what played out. Oh, and probably another quick point. I think it's probably good practice for anyone that's seriously keen on their technicals is to start drawing up, marking up the chart. Say if I was, say I was going to do it here, I could just take a snapshot. I could save this in a file, date it, what date it was when I was looking at it, and then if you're doing that, just keep coming back and just keep having a quick look. Just keep coming back and having a bit of a look, and just seeing what actually played out. There's nothing wrong. I guess a lot of people would say you have to be biased one way or the other. Take a pick away. Well, you don't technically have to. You can have it set up for a long and what you want to see, and potentially also the stochastics are getting a bit extended up here, and it's a resistance zone. So that if that rolls over, we might get the short sell. It may roll over and start holding up. It come all the way back down to oversold, like we spoke about on the SPY. It holds a higher low, so that's a really good sign for a long. Does that make sense? So if I can draw this up and save it, maybe type up a few notes of what I'm expecting. If I want to see a long, this is what I'm expecting to see. If I want to see a short, what am I expecting to see? You can always refer to it later if you haven't traded it, and just see what your strike rate is longer term. Even if you don't get your setup and you miss it, it's always good to know that you're picking the right directions, the longer term directions. I mean, the amount of trades I've put out, say on the app, for instance, that have been completely the right direction, it just didn't play out exactly what I expected, and we didn't actually take the trade or we didn't take the alert. But it's still good to see that maybe 80% of the time I've got it the right direction. Does that make sense, guys? And so it's probably good practice. Save that file, mark it up, save it, take a few notes, chuck it in the file, and refer to it later on just to see how you're going when you start analysing your trading or analysing your analysing your analysis. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'll probably call it a day there. It's been enough babbling by me. If there's any questions, that you may not have got a chance to put into the chat, feel free to chuck it into an email and send it through to support@tradesetup.com.au, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Otherwise, we'll be back in on Monday. So I hope you all have a good weekend, and we'll see you back in on Monday. Have a good couple of days. Hopefully it all pans out quite nicely for us. All right, cheers, guys. Enjoy. Bye.